Welcome to Mental Makeover Radio, your go-to destination for meaningful conversations about mental health. I'm your host and your trusted therapist bestie, Cecilia Manella. Join us as we explore the complexities and messiness of human experience by addressing your questions and concerns. I'm here to provide a straightforward and practical therapy advice. So grab your favorite beverage, whether it's tea, coffee, or whatever tickles your taste buds, and get ready to embark on a mental makeover. Hello and welcome to Mental Makeover Radio. I'm your host, Cecilia Manella, and I'm so grateful you're here. We took a little bit of a break, had some technology issues, and now we are back. Super excited to be here. And today's topic is going to be a little bit fun. So I am sharing with you the top 5 reasons and ways to make yourself unhappy. So instead of focusing just on happiness, I am going to share with you the sure way to make yourself super unhappy in your life. And I hope you find it interesting and entertaining and also maybe a little insightful and give you some tips to change some things that are going on in your life. So number 5, of the top 5 ways to create some unhappiness in your life is actually chasing unhappiness. I know it might sound a little bit strange and redundant, but the truth is those who chase happiness are some of the most unhappy people, because happiness is not something you find. We really focus in our culture of this idea of finding happiness or finding things that make us happy. We're so focused on happiness, and happiness is just an emotion. Okay. So the way that emotions work they're just a sensation in our body that gives us information about the situation we find ourselves in. And happiness is an interesting emotion because we all experience it and we all really want to grab onto it and we want to hold on to it as long as possible and extend it in our lives as much as possible because it feels like a drug because it feels so good, right? So happiness kind of taps into those endorphins in our brain, very similar to what cocaine does to our brain. It's why we get addicted to cocaine, is because it makes us feel really good. It's that amazing feeling. Now, we all feel happiness because we're all humans, but the way we experience that emotion in our bodies is actually really different for every single person. It comes down to how we grew up, how we see happiness, whether we believe we deserve happiness. It's really couched in a lot of meaning making, and it's kind of loaded sometimes. So we are inundated with social media posts and blog posts about happiness and how to be happier. And really the chasing of happiness makes you really unhappy because you are approaching it from a place where it's something that exists outside of you that you can grab onto, hold, and take, or something that you just kind of dig around and discover and you find, and it's this magical thing that just shows up. But that's not what happiness is. Happiness is a regular emotion that's in relation to a situation. So, think about when you felt happy. What happens is there's an event that happens, a situation happens. Let's say, you graduate from your program, or someone has a baby, or you get that promotion you've been waiting for, or your spouse brings flowers home. Whatever it is a specific situation that then elicits an emotional response from you. And that emotion might be happiness. And what happens with happiness in the body is that it climbs and it peaks to a top and then it comes down because that promotion, eventually the excitement of that wears off a little bit, or the, amazing feeling of happiness that comes when your spouse gives you flowers is great, but then eventually wears itself off. And the excitement we might feel about a new baby in the family, well, that kind of starts to wear off over time too. But happiness is an emotion that's supposed to wear off. It's supposed to be in response to a situation, and then it's supposed to peak, and then it's supposed to come right back down. As unfortunate as that is, that's the way happiness actually works. We are not really meant to be happy all the time. Like, that is not a goal to work towards. That is not achievable. That is not possible. Please do not chase happiness. See it as a reaction to your life and the circumstances around it, and enjoy it when it's there, but know that it's not meant to be there. We're not meant to exist in happiness all the time. We're not meant to live there. We're meant to experience this emotion, have the peak, and then have it come back down. And then we go back to maybe a little bit of normal, maybe sometimes boring life. And that's actually okay. So chasing happiness is going to lead you to unhappiness. And that's number 5. Number 4, the number 4 way that you can ensure to create unhappiness in your life is people pleasing. Because at the core of people pleasing, it's really about being focused on other people's expectations of you and putting your needs last. So putting the needs of everybody else above your own. So people pleasing is not really holistic for you. And what that is at the core is really believing that other people's values, other people's needs, other people's thoughts, other people's anything about other people is actually more important, and that the happiness and fulfillment and success of other people has more value than yours. The other part of people pleasing is that we're living into other people's expectations of us. So we don't always check that we're accurate in what we think other people expect from us. Sometimes those are things that we narrate and can kind of create sometimes. And sometimes they've been given to us. Sometimes they come from family members, or they come from experiences that we've had. It can come from childhood experiences that we are really, really focused on other people's expectations of us. And we are not really focusing on ourselves. If you want to dive into more people pleasing, you can check out episode 13, where I dive into lots of ideas around people pleasing and how to kind of get out of that. But people pleasing will take you away from happiness. Why? Because it has you focus on other people. It really is just that simple and yet that complicated, because our experience of happiness comes from internal. It comes from us. It comes from inside. And it comes from meeting our own needs and our own wants and our own desires. And sometimes it's through achievement, as in like getting that promotion, or it's in relation to feeling proud of something you've done. So people pleasing has you focused externally all the time. So it's this external locus of control. We're looking at everything on the outside. And if everyone around me is good and happy, then I'm good and happy. Well, the problem with that is that you can't control what's happening outside of you. You can't control the people in your life. You cannot control or mitigate or manage all the circumstances of everyone around you. You can try really hard, and you're going to exhaust yourself into the ground trying to. And a lot of people do, trust me. And you'll get super burnt out and feel very unfulfilled, because the second you have this idea that you can control and make one person in your life happy or manage all the pieces of their happiness, something else goes sideways on the other side. And then you're focusing on another person, and then another fire starts and another fire starts. And you're constantly running around trying to please everybody else and make everything easy for everyone. And you are last. And that is the sure way to get to a place of not feeling fulfilled and not feeling happy in your own life. Number 3 of the top 5 ways to make yourself unhappy is choosing comfort and safety over growth. Now, we all love to be comfortable. It's a lovely thing to be comfy and feel really safe in the world and make our life, super manageable and all our routines and everything that we do. But in fact, when we do these things too much, what it does is that it prevents us from growing. Now, why do we need growth? What happens when we choose comfort over growth, or we choose safety over growth, is that forget that we're just kind of organic beings. We are not robots, and we exist in nature. Humanity exists in nature, and our history is from nature. So if you look at nature, and you look around you and you see anything that is choosing not to grow, usually dies. Plants, vegetation, animals, everything. We are constantly changing. And when we're choosing comfort, that's what we're kind of doing. We're really limiting our lives. We're making things really small. And in that comfort, is not happiness. You know that to be true. If you are to think about your life, if you were to take a moment right now and think about the ways in which you choose comfort, when you choose comfort, there might be an immediate response that is, oh, I don't want to be uncomfortable, so this is much better. But what happens is that everything then becomes really predictable. And when everything becomes predictable, there's no space for newness. There's no space for adventure. There's no space for new learning. There's no space for discovering pieces and parts of you that you never really knew existed. There's no expansion of skill set. There's no learning something new. So it becomes very stagnant. It's like stagnant water. Water needs to move. If water is stagnant, we all know it's full of mosquitoes and grossness and bacteria, and it actually is not good. We want to be moving water in our lives. So when we are choosing comfort and safety over growth, it really limits our life and it makes our life really small. And although we want to think that we're comfortable there, the truth is we actually don't find happiness. There's no experience of happiness in a small life. We all want to live a little bit bigger. We need to live a little bigger. We need to expand ourselves and try new things. And step into being uncomfortable. Step into those spaces where you're not the smartest person in the room, or you are not the most senior person in that space, or you're learning a brand new skill set and you've never done this before. You need that. Your heart, your mind needs us, because that's where we grow. That's where happiness exists in these new experiences. So just like I said, number 5 is like chasing happiness is a problem. We're supposed to have this reaction to a situation. If we do not have new experiences, we cannot have a different reaction to a situation. So if your life is very, very controlled and everything is comfortable all the time, what maybe used to create some happiness for you starts to wear itself off, and it's actually not creating happiness anymore. So the smaller your life, the less happy you'll be. The bigger you create your life, the more experiences you have, the more spaces in which you are a student and you're just learning, there's more possibility for this feeling of happiness. So that's number 3, choosing comfort and safety over learning. Number 2 on the list of ways to make yourself unhappy is chasing the status quo and not really giving yourself the time to learn and understand your passion and your values. So what do I mean by chasing the status quo? Is that, there's a lot of social expectations that we have, whether you're a man or a woman or a young person or an older person, or you're single in relationships, whether you choose to get married or not, or choose to have children or not, all these things, there's a lot of social expectations. And we're constantly in negotiation with these expectations in society. And we always have been since the beginning of time. So if you are not questioning these expectations, the status quo, then you are not exploring whether your passions and your values fit into those expectations. Then you're just kind of going along with the flow without even really realizing if this is what you really want. So, for example, something as simple as where to live and what housing situation you want to live in. And we are so bombarded with this idea that we need to have a house and a white picket fence, and it has a yard and it's this big and has to have these many bedrooms. And we always think bigger is better some way, or having more is better. And that is really ingrained in us around a social expectation. And most people don't even question it. They don't question, do I actually really want a house? Do I want to have the responsibility of a yard and all these things that come with it? Or is my lifestyle better suited in a different living environment? Is my life better suited maybe just being a renter? Maybe I don't even want to own. Like, this whole idea that we're supposed to all follow the same path is a little bit ludicrous. And most people don't stop to think, do I really want these things in my life? And if I do I want them because I want them? Or do I want them because I've been socialized to think this is and believe that this is what I actually want? And this is the part about taking the time to understand your passions and values. This isn't about discovering your passion. It's already in your life. You're just not paying attention. Most of us are not paying attention. We are constantly distracted. And we live probably in the most distracted time in history for humanity right now, is because we have access to technology 24/7. We have the ability to work 24/7 at any point of the day. This is fairly new in the history of humanity that we have the ability to do this. So we have a lot of distractions. And there are a lot of shiny objects. And I also fall victim to the shiny object. And I also fall into these distractions and have to bring myself back and rein myself back in. There's no way of doing this perfectly, but there is, intentional time and space that you can give yourself to understand your passions and your values, because it's in the passion, your values that make you a unique human being on this planet. There's so much about you that is unique and amazing. And when we're chasing the status quo, we're chasing the social expectations that we think we need to live up to. It pulls us away from our uniqueness and pulls us towards cookie cutter life. And we are sold kind of this bill of goods that if we just follow this cookie cutter life, that there's a guaranteed happiness at the end. Like if I do all these things, all these steps, then the end of the rainbow, the pot of gold that's waiting for me is happiness. And if you've lived a little bit of a life, that's actually not true. And yet we continue to replicate it, hoping that eventually we'll get to the pot of gold and that there's going to be happiness in that pot of gold. I'm telling you that that's actually a lie. That's actually not true. And the way to change this is to really think about your own passions. What do you love to do? What do you find yourself pulled towards in creativity? Most of our passions are creatively based. And that doesn't mean like painting and art, because everything we do is rooted in creativity, whether that's gardening or whether that's reading or writing or painting or woodworking or working on cars or building motors or designing things. Like everything is creative. Content creation, everything is creative. And our passions are in that sphere of creativity. They're there. It's just about you accessing that and being able to understand that this is the stuff that kind of feeds your heart. This is what feeds your mind in a different way. And really understanding our values is actually really important too. And part of that piece of the values piece is that really knowing what you're willing to die for, in the sense of like, what are the values that guide your life? What are the things that you're willing to sacrifice comfort over? And they're different for everybody. And these are the core of who we are. And it's really important to know what your values are, because that is the guiding light towards what direction you need to be going in your life. So it's moving away from taking social expectations as the creating the map of your life and which direction you're going to go in. And it's taking control of the map and deciding what direction you're going to go in and what this road trip is going to look like based on your own passions and your own dreams and your own values. If you're looking for a values exercise, I will drop it in the show notes for you. And it's ceciliamanella.com/values. And it's a little bit of an exercise to help you kind of get to what those values are and to narrow those down. Trust me, it's a very worthwhile exercise that can be life-changing in many ways. And bringing those forward will help you in challenging what's being told to you and deciding what life do you want to live. Okay, so we've done now all four. The number one sure way to be unhappy is having hidden expectations for yourself and for others. Sure way to create unhappiness. What are hidden expectations? So there's expectations that we have that we actually share, we talk about. I expect you to take the garbage out. I expect you to go to school. I expect you to show up to work on time. These are things that are out there that we're very clear about. people who struggle with people pleasing have a really hard time with being really clear with their expectations. Hidden expectations are just kind of what that phrase is that they're hidden. We don't share them. Sometimes we don't even know we have them. So sometimes they're secret or hidden from us, but we just behave in a certain way that shows that there's expectations that haven't been expressed yet. And this shows up for ourselves and it shows up for others. So it's in our relationship with ourselves and it's also in relationship with other people. And we are constantly in a relationship, whether we are in an intimate relationship or not. We have friendships, we have coworkers, we have children, we have nieces and nephews and brothers and sisters and mothers and fathers and neighbors and community members and bosses and supervisors. Like we're constantly in relationship all the time. And when we hold these hidden expectations, it becomes really problematic because it is the source of a lot of suffering is these hidden expectations. When we don't really express these expectations, it creates a friction inside of us, whether that's disappointment or resentment, um, anger, frustration, feeling shame or guilt, feeling not heard, not seen, not belonging, the sense of anxiety that can build inside of you. These hidden expectations can actually do a lot of damage to ourselves and into relationships. Now, we often don't share them. One, if we know about them, we're not sharing them is because we're scared to share them. We're scared to put it out there for fear of judgment or rejection or fear of abandonment. And that stuff goes back to all of our own childhood experiences. And this is a normal human thing. I just want to say that we all have a lot of hidden expectations. And the path to healing and wellness is about getting familiar with your hidden expectations and then getting comfortable with actually just saying them out loud. And not comfortable in that, you can guarantee that they're going to be well received, but comfortable in your own confidence in expressing those expectations. Because the more hidden expectations you have, the more unhappiness you're going to feel. The more free you are with your expectations and putting them out there, the happier you're going to feel, the lighter you're going to feel, the more connected you're going to feel, and the more open you're going to be to have a genuine happy reaction to a situation in your life. So I want you to see that hidden expectations are almost a barrier between you and an experience to feel that happiness. I want you to see that that's what gets in the way. It's the expectations that get in the way of happiness. So we can have an experience or a situation that we want to be happy about, let's say like a promotion or your spouse bringing you flowers or someone's graduating or whatever it is that you want to be happy about. And you know that maybe you should be happy, as in like that's an expected response, but you're not feeling it. There's something that barrier between you and that experience that should facilitate a happiness feeling is hidden expectations 99% of the time. Because you're expecting it to be different, or you're expecting someone to be different, or you want it to be a certain way, or you want it to go a certain way, or you want to be included in a certain way. But it's all about the expectations that have not been expressed. Maybe you didn't really know that were there. They were hidden underneath something in you. And when it rears its ugly head, you're not expressing them. You're just holding them. And in expressing them, you can have the relief of knowing whether that expectation actually makes a lot of sense. Because the hidden expectations we typically have are very convoluted. And sometimes it can feel really shameful or embarrassing to put them out there because we think sometimes it's going to sound crazy or ridiculous or someone's going to judge us for it or something. We create this narrative about rejection automatically before even saying anything. And this is a sure way to create a ton of suffering. And when we are in suffering, we are not in connection to happiness. There's no space for happiness, that emotion. We need to be light and free to experience happiness. And when we're feeling bombarded and heavy and weighed down by expectations, it's really difficult to have that emotion of happiness. So again, happiness is just an emotion, right? And it's a reaction to experiences and circumstances in our life, and we all want a lot of it. And that's good. I love that you want that for you, and I want that for you. I want you to experience more happiness and joy in your life. And the 5 ways that you can sure guarantee that you're not going to experience happiness is chasing happiness. It's people pleasing and living under other people's expectations. It's choosing comfort and safety over growth. It's chasing the status quo and not really creating time for your own passions and your own values, and having hidden expectations that are permeating your life and getting in the way of where you want to be. Again, I hope this episode was really helpful, and I hope it was a little bit fun for you. And, just want you to encourage you to kind of maybe address some of these things and move towards the life that you actually want, because these things are fairly easy to address. We just need to hold ourselves accountable to a little bit of discomfort when it comes to growth and just getting out of that comfort zone just a little bit. If you found this episode helpful, I'd love for you to share it with people in your life. I really appreciate that. Until next time, be bold, be brave, be well.